Hey guys, Tom here from Touchscreen, and today we're going to talk about something, well, not so much a little different. We've been discussing rules a little bit on the channel lately, and in Touch Football Australia, we have the 8th edition rules, and that's something that's been in play for coming up to the 6th year now when we trialled it in 2019. And majority of the players will remember the 7th edition, the big changes that came from 7th to 8th being from 5 to 7 meters. Shadowing is another term that gets loosely thrown around, but it got me thinking. We remember 7-a-side in the 90s. That was probably the 6th edition. The 7th edition, I went and had a look. That came into play in 2000. So we went 19 years without a rule change in touch football. So 7th edition, going back, what does the 1st edition Touch Football Australia rulebook look like? And it took me a while to track this down. Well, eventually, I found out my dad had it. So all this time trying to track it down, I could have just asked him in the first place. But let's have a look at the 1st edition Touch Football rules in Australia. So here we have it here. Australian Touch Football Association Playing Rules, ATFA. So ATFA, Australian Touch Football Association. These days, it's just Touch Football Australia. But yeah, back then, you'll see a lot of old referee badges that have ATRA, Australian Touch Referees Association. So yeah, that's what it was called. Referees Glossary of Terms. Obviously, if you were a referee, you got one of these. So we'll zoom in. This is obviously not a digital copy. This has been scanned. It is a digital copy now, but it has been scanned from an original. So you can see it's a little bit broken up just to sort of preserve it. So a little bit might be hard to read. Okay, President's message. We'll just read the first little bit here. This is the first publication of the rules of touch football as agreed nationally and encompasses 12 years of the planning and development of a sport that has captured the enthusiasm and participation of thousands of sport-minded Australians of all ages. So it says there touch football had been around for 12 years, but this was when, as a nation, we formalised the rule book moving forward. I'll put a link in the description that has some archive information about what touch was like before then, particularly coming from Queensland, but this is looking at the nation as a whole and their rules. But noticing this, Yours in Touch, President Ray Vorden. Now, myself and a lot of other New South Welshmen would recognise that name from the Vorden Cup. Obviously, I never met Ray Vorden myself, but I do know from talking touch football with a lot of people that he was a very important figure in the history of the game. So, as you can see, had a major part in creating the first ever rule book. But let's dive in to see what that looks like. So we have interstate matches here, straight up. Field dimensions, 50 by 70, that's exactly the same. Team composition is where it changes a little bit. A team will consist of 7 players and 4 reserves. Reserves may interchange with players on the field of play whilst their team is in possession. So that's not really a rule anymore, the possession one. You can sort of make changes whenever, but it's obviously 99% of changes are going to come when you've got the ball, much more safer. But 7 players on the field, we spoke about in the 90s, that was a thing. I remember when I started playing touch, they still had 7-a-side in under 12s. I guess the thought was too much space for 11-year-old kids, 10, 11-year-old kids, so they kept that 7-a-side. So I did have experience playing 7-a-side as a youngster in touch football, but that was quickly changed. That didn't last very long. And I think touch football itself went to 6-a-side in the mid-90s, which I am going to guess that was the 6th edition. So guessing that, 5 editions of rules, we played 7-a-side touch, but this one has only 4 reserves. Now, looking at the way touch is played now, I'm going to say that this, because obviously touch was a hybrid from rugby league to play in the summer, I'm going to say with the 4 reserves, if you were in the starting 7, you probably played on the field until you needed a rest. Like there was no tactical interchanges. It was just play, I need a rest, I'm coming off. Like social touch. That's just my assumption. Obviously, I don't know. I wasn't alive when this was played. I'm going to try and incorporate some footage into this of some games around this time. But yeah, it's very interesting. 4 reserves, and I'm not sure if that's tournaments, social, whatever, but 11 players total. Moving down, team dress, that's sort of the same. Finals, worth note here, in the event of a drawn in the final of a series, after an additional 10 minutes each way has been played. 10 minutes each way, that's an extra 20 minutes of touch. Try averages will determine the winner. I muddle up my words. I even muddled up trying to say muddle. Anyway, moving on. So ATFA playing rules. These are your sort of general rules. Field dimensions. So the playing field shall be in rectangular in shape, between 70 and 100 meters in length, and between 50 and 70 meters in width. So the traditional size we see now, 70 in length, 50 in width, which is half a rugby league, rugby union, or a soccer field. So I'm guessing here, if you had a social competition where your ground may have been only marked for soccer, rugby league, union, whatever, you can play touch on a full-size field, or you can shrink it down to a half-size field. You just can't make it a square. It has to be a rectangular shape. So a bit of leeway there, depending what the club's needs or wants are. And the team composition, next one down, 7 to 9 players, it says. So a minimum of 7, maximum of 9 players, but always 4 reserves. So obviously if you're on the bigger field, as it says, you can have more on the field. So essentially you could see in 1980 a 9-a-side game of touch. I'm not sure if that goes into the rep scene, but 9-a-side touch was a thing. So now in my head, I'm thinking, what are the positions? You obviously got your wingers, your links. Does that mean 5 middles on the field at the same time? I have no idea. And I'm really interested if there's anyone out there that played touch around this time, comment. Let me know what it was like, because I'm really interested. My parents played a lot of touch football, but it was a few years after this when they played seriously. So team dress, yeah, we can skip over that. That's sort of the same. Duration of play. Play will not be more than 30 minutes each way. And trust me, you don't want that. If you add extra time onto a 60-minute game, that's a lot of touch, and you would just be absolutely spent. You'd be exhausted. Excuse me. So looking at that, teams and clubs will normally go what it says, which is 30-minute halves. It's a long time. That's moved down to 20-minute halves now, with a lot of rep tournaments being like a straight 30. Even my social club does straight 30 minutes now, rather than half time. And that's common in winter too. You don't want players cooling down at halftime getting injured, so they just play a straight game. Scoring, that's the same. Penalty try, we already spoke about that. That's got a bit of traction. Finals, look, that's tournament rules. Let's keep moving on. Discipline, referee may dismiss a player from the field of play for any period of time. Now, or for the rest of the game. If a player is sent from the field after already having been sent off for part of the game, he's automatically suspended. So this period of time was up until the 7th edition, probably a little bit different, but these days with the 8th edition, it's 4 sets of possession that you're in the sin bin for. But before that, it was up to the referee's discretion. So if you did something in the eyes of the referee minor, he might leave you there for 2 sets or 3 sets. If you did something major, or what I've seen before is you were standing in the sin bin mouthing off again, you would be left there for longer. You could be left there for the majority of the game. Referee's discretion, and that's what it looks like it's been written here. So that rule progressed all the way up until almost 2020, basically up until COVID. Judiciary, we don't have to worry about that. That's not really touch rules. So there's bits of this obviously highlighted. That's just because it was highlighted when it was scanned. So that's not anything to do with this video. That's just the way it is. The toss, that's the fine. But the toss, have a look at the last 2 words in the toss. Kickoff. We'll get to that later. But I saw that and I thought, okay, they just mean tap kick, but just wait a little bit. We'll talk about the kickoff. But the touch is defined as contact being made by defender on any part of the attacking player's body, clothing, or upon the ball being carried. That's the same. A player is required to play the ball immediately. Here's touch. They must play the ball without delay. It says here that if they deliberately run on after being touched, will be penalised. I actually got a call from a level 6 referee, and we actually spoke about this rule, and it's not written this way in the 8th edition, but he swore that he remembers this rule, and that's his proof there. So if you're watching this, found the rule. All right, 6-touch rule. The 6-touch rule will apply up to 6 touches. The attacking team loses possession. That's fine. From the kickoff, there's that words again. A defending player may trap the ball with any part of his body, excluding his hands or forearms. Because we're going off a kickoff now, it's a bit weird because obviously there's no more kickoff in touch. Talking about the kickoff before actually explaining that there is a kickoff is a little bit weird and backwards, but basically, if you look at a kickoff, it's saying you can't trap the ball with your hands. As soon as you hit your hands, that's a knock on. Okay, so commencement of play. Yeah, we can skip over that. Playing the ball. Player must face the opposing team's try line, be parallel. Same rule. You can't play the ball not being parallel. Have to be parallel. It can't be not square. It's an unfair advantage, and it's a changeover. Neither team may move within 5 meters, 5-meter area, nor the marker. There's another one. Marker. From his mark until the dummy half has touched the ball. Now, so what's that saying? Is both teams, it sounds like they have to be 5 meters away from the play the ball, which is the way it used to be in rugby league at the time. So it's a bit vague. I'm only guessing. So if the play the ball's in the center here, defending team must be 5 meters this way. Attacking team also must be 5 meters back. So essentially the dummy halves if they don't run, they have to pass the ball substantially backwards for the first one. The person playing the ball and the marker must not partake in physical contact. But what it's saying, we're talking about a marker here. So if you make the touch, I think we are going to talk about more marker stuff later, but only one marker is allowed by the defending team. All other players must retire 5 meters. So if you make the touch and you're the only one in the touch, you can just stand there. Square, obviously, but that kind of negates the dummy half running. So the attacking options in touch in 1980 must have been completely different. And it's amazing to think of touch football played with a marker. I know there's some social competitions scattered around that still play it this way, but they play it with like kicking and things like that. They changed the rules a lot. I've never seen a touch football competition-esque that have still had markers. I've never seen that before. If you've seen it, let us know. The acting half must be allowed to clear the ball. However, if he moves from his position left or right. So this is more of a junior rugby league rule now. So what it's saying there is the marker can't just reach around and just tap him on the shoulder. He has to be given the opportunity to get rid of the ball by passing. Here's another good one. In the absence of an acting half when the ball is being played, the marker may gain possession of the ball. That gain will not deemed to be the first touch. An unmarked player may play the ball in a forward. Okay, sorry, the first one. So you can gain possession. Now, this is kind of in the rules today. Basically, it says if there's no dummy half present, the marker can go around and pick up the ball and it's play on. These days, you just touch the ball and it's a changeover and you've got to play the ball again. But that would be very interesting because now you don't see that very often apart from on the line where the defending team can get up and touch the ball while it's on the ground before a dummy half can get it. It doesn't happen very often, but I imagine it probably happened a fair bit when there was a marker and you had to run, 2 meters instead of 9 or 7 or something like that. A little bit more than 5. But this next rule is interesting with the highlighted. An unmarked player, so that means the guy playing the ball or the girl playing the ball with no marker in front of them, may play the ball in a forward direction from the mark no more than 1 meter. If that player is caught in possession, however, he is deemed to be the acting half. A try would be awarded only if the ball carrier is carried over the ball is carried over the try line. If the player, okay, so basically what that's saying is if you have no marker in front of you, you can tap the ball, play the ball forward, no more than a meter, which is like just taking a tap, pick it up and run again. But you are the dummy half. But what it's saying here is the ball is carried over the try line, a try would be scored. So I'm interested to see if the dummy half was allowed to score a try in this first edition, which might make sense considering they have a marker. They might allow the dummy half to score a try. Alrighty, let's keep going. Possession. All right, possession. A player in possession who deliberately propels the ball forward to gain an unfair advantage will be penalised. Sounds like a forward pass to me. Kicking. Here we go. All right. The ball cannot be kicked in play. That's our rule. Other than to commence or recommence a game, taking a tap penalty and playing the ball forward if unmarked. So obviously to commence a game, there was a kickoff. These days, it's a tap kick. Technically, that's still a kick, but I wouldn't say kicking is part of touch football. The only time we're allowed to kick now is a tap, so a penalty or a tap off, and you are allowed to use the foot to play the ball if you want to play the ball with your foot, and you are allowed to trap the ball with your foot if you're dummy half. If the ball's coming like fast at you, you can stop it with your foot, pick it up. But I wouldn't go as far as calling them kicks to what we would associate a kick with. Tap penalty, that's the same. Intercept's the same. During play, the ball is not held as go to ground. Defending team. All right. So basically, that's back then it wasn't a knock on. It was if the ball touched the ground, change over. So that's good. That's a 45-year-old rule there. If the ball or an attacking player is interfered with by an opposing player, causing the ball to be mishandled or dropped to the ground, is retained by the attacking team regardless of whether the ball is touched in the second player. Okay, so this is basically saying, let me just, this is an interesting one. I'm looking at the one with the highlighter here. So an interference is just a recount. It doesn't look like it's a penalty. So if you lose the ball due to an obstruction, if the attacking player is obstructed, then it's just a 6 again. Play will be resumed by playing the ball in the 6 touch count will recommence. Willful obstruction, yeah, penalty. There you go. Sounds like an accidental obstruction. What have we got here? Section 1, the field of play. So no 5-meter lines here because obviously that rule didn't come in until later. That came in the 90s, the Mexican standoff must move forward rule. So not even 10-meter lines either way of halfway. So it's just try line, touch line, halfway line. Nice and easy if you're a line marker. All right, so O is a corner post. Okay, that's why they look like that. This is where it starts to get a little bit hard to read. So this is just a glossary. We're going to skip through the glossary. I can't see anything there that's not going to mean what it means today. Or the trapping the ball obviously doesn't exist as much. Okay, section 3, the ball. I don't know the exact dimensions of a ball right now. But I imagine it wouldn't be very different. There's a funny story. There's a World Cup that was played, I think, in the States where they had to use leather balls because they were playing in the States. But like I said, this is Touch Football Australia. Players and playing equipment. There's the 4 substitutions again. All right, equipment. Look, this is all probably going to be very similar to now. Anything dangerous, they wouldn't let you playing in. Mode of play, start of play, captains have a toss. The losing team kicks off. Okay. Touching, yeah. Look, this is just all sort of housekeeping stuff now. Deciding the winners, whoever scores more. Okay, what's highlighted here? Let's read that because obviously it's something important. If the player in possession grounds the ball and is touched simultaneously, a try is not allowed. If a player grounds the ball over the try line, but the ball is grounded in an area which would be considered in touch, if the touch line was extended past the try line. Oh, okay, that's more of a social rule. But wow, the simultaneous one interests me because normally the advantage would go to the team scoring the try. A simultaneous touch grounding, I would say, would be a try. But here it's saying it's not. I guess this is up to personal opinions or interpretation of simultaneous. In my opinion, I would, if I was refereeing the game, I would just not use the word simultaneous. I would just say the ball's down first, and it would save me a lot of arguing. Penalty try, already got that rule. It's on another video. Referee sole judge. This comes from rugby league. But notice how it says touch judge. Only the referee may award a try, but may take into consideration advice from a touch judge. So in 1980, it was one referee and two touch judges with flags and everything. Again, I don't know when that stopped. I think there's some videos on YouTube in the late 80s with touch judges. So a couple of editions of rules obviously had touch judges. Let's keep going. Length of the game. Normally be a 50 minutes duration. Okay, so normally 25-minute halves. Extra time. Okay, varying lengths of game. We spoke about that. Reduced stoppages. Here we go. The kickoff. The kickoff is a place kick from the center of the halfway line. The team which loses the toss for choice of ends kicks off to start the first half of the game. Sorry, it's a little bit blurry. And their opponents kick off to start the second half. When tries have been scored, the team against... When tries have been scored, the team against which the try has been scored is called kick off to restart the game. So start and recommence. Start of a half, after a try, kickoffs, like rugby league does. Obviously, the only time you see that these days is a game of Oztag. Offences incurring penalties. Kicker. A player who kicks off shall be penalised if he advances in front of the halfway line before kicking the ball. Well, that's very easy not to do. Kicks the ball on the full over the touchline or try line. Obviously, yes, you want to kick the ball in the field because we're playing a game that happens in the field. Kicks the ball so that it fails to travel at least 10 metres forward. So there you go. We have to kick the ball at least 10 metres forward, just like rugby league. Kicks the ball other than a place kick is the final rule, so you can't pick up the ball and punt kick it. All right. Anyway, so we've got kickoff rules that basically you would associate with any form of kickoff. There's nothing really specific to this rule book as far as a kickoff goes that you won't see in a game of Union League, whatever. Ball in touch, beyond the try line, point of entry. Okay, this is stuff that we've seen before. Ball back. The ball is accidentally thrown or knocked in a forward direction and goes into touch on the full. A play the ball by the non-offending team is formed. Fair enough. Just it threw me as to why it was called ball back. Doesn't really make much sense. Let's keep going. Oh, we've got a bit of a sponsor shout out here. Hey, bit of that might be the referee attire from the 1980s. I do wish they'd bring back the white in the referees in Australia. Not a big fan, to be honest, of the pink and yellow. Like that, individually they look fine, but they clash with some team colours. And when they wore white, no teams were allowed to wear white. So I actually wish they would go back to white. Okay, player not an object. That's should be still a rule. Basically saying if I'm standing out as a defender and I touch someone, doesn't mean they're out just because I'm out. Drop ball or forward pass. Yes, that's still in the game. Touch and the play the ball. Yep, still there. Thank you for not being blurry, this page. Change of possession at the 6 touch. Passing the ball. Here we go. This is an interesting one. And this is going to be in a video that I'm going to talk about later. Passing the ball after touched, accidentally or deliberately. A player who has been touched while in possession shall not intentionally part with the ball after he has been touched. If in the opinion of the referee he does so, he should be penalised. So that's a touch pass. Number 7, if in the opinion of the referee a player is unable to avoid parting with the ball after he's been touched, play shall cease and restart with a play the ball by the player who parted with the ball the touch count does not restart. And this actually was up until and including the 7th edition. Up until 2019, there was a similar rule where if the referee, well, actually, sort of similar. The rule in the 7th edition was if the referee couldn't decide if the pass was made before or after the touch, they could bring the ball back to the person who passed the ball for a play the ball. And that's saying in number 7, what's happening here is if they're in passing motion and they're touched in passing motion, they could be touched on the back. You can bring the ball back to them because it doesn't seem fair that they couldn't help pass the ball after they got touched. So they don't want to take the ball off them. But the number 6, I'm not going to talk into it too much now, but it does rate a good point about what is a deliberate touch pass and accidental touch pass. So I'll leave that here for now, and we'll talk about that on another video. But yeah, there was some discretion available back then. These days, it's a touch pass. Like, regardless of where you got touched, if you're in passing motion or whatever, it's a touch pass. Stealing from touched player. So obviously you can't take the ball off someone. Opponent touches the ball, counts count, physical contact. All right, here we go. If a player loses possession of the ball because of any physical contact with the opponent, play shall cease and restart with the play of the ball by the player last in possession. This is probably not something you see as much anymore. But yeah, I do remember probably 20 years ago when I first started watching touch, there was a lot of loose balls that were given back to the player to play the ball again. These days, it's probably the onus is now on the player with the ball to not lose it unless it's an unfair or forceful touch, but definitely not any physical contact. So I could touch someone and they lose the ball. And these days, and I agree with it, the referee will say, no, the onus is on you not to lose the ball. It's an incorrect roll ball, or however they want to rule it. The play the ball shall operate as follows. The player touched must immediately return to the spot where he was first touched. Yes, that's correct. That's still in. Touch player shall without delay face his opponent's goal line and place the ball on the ground or drop it to the ground. Not allowed to do that. As far as I'm aware, you're not allowed to drop the ball to the ground. You have to place it in front of his foremost foot when the ball touches the ground. It may be healed by the touched player. If unmarked, this is where we go back to unmarked. Obviously, you can kick the ball forward, pick it up, and you're dummy half. After a change of possession, however, so the first play the ball. After a change of possession, you have to play the ball to a dummy half behind you. Player marking. One opponent may take up a position immediately as directly opposite the touch player. This is known as the marker. Marker, obviously, the next one is saying they're not allowed to kick for the ball, because I think in 1980 in rugby league, every play the ball was sort of contested, whereas they didn't want that in touch. They said you could stand there and you could prevent the dummy half from running, but we didn't want you hacking at the ball, hooking at the ball with your feet. Dummy half. Let's see if the dummy half could score. A player of the touch player's team, known to be dummy half, may stand. Okay. Dummy half must not be touched until he has moved either foot after picking up the ball. So, wow, okay. So you can pick up the ball and stand there as long as you haven't moved your feet. I imagine the team can come at you, but you're sort of immune. So I wonder if that was a time-wasting ploy for teams that they changed that. Not too sure. In the absence of a dummy half, the marker may dive at the ball. They can dive at the ball, which is been ruled out in rugby league now, because I assume that someone obviously dove at the ball and collected the dummy half's knee. Very dangerous. So very rightfully so, they got rid of that. The play the ball must be performed as quickly as possible. Yep, don't delay it. There's notes. Okay, yep. Oh, a bit blurry, the tap penalty. This is just how the taps, or when awarded, obviously after a penalty. How taken. I guess that's supposed to say placing the ball on the mark. Not too sure. Let's just keep going. Position of players. Obviously, yep. Players of the kicking team must be behind the ball when it's tapped. No delay. Explain why penalised. This is all sort of same. Referees have, yes, they do have the ability to and it's probably courteous to explain why you're getting penalised. Penalty for beyond try line offence. Yep, take the ball out. Advantage is still the same. Retiring 10 metres is still the same. 10 metres from penalty. It's 7 now from any other play the ball that's not the tap off. Offside. A player is offside when the ball is touched or held by one of his own team who is behind them. Okay. Out of play. So this is an interesting one. We don't have this one anymore. This was a league rule, and not many times you would ever see someone break this rule. An offside player shall not take part in the game or attempt to influence the game in any manner. So this out of play in rugby league means if you're standing in front of the play the ball at the time, you can't take part unless you get behind the mark of the play the ball. So I'm not sure what this one means. This just looks like just if you're offside, stay out of play. Be placed onside if they run in front of you. Accidental offside's a league rule. And we have misconduct. So misconduct is just misconduct. It's just deliberately breaking the rules of the game. It's foul play. We still have misconduct in touch football. Explain reasons for penalty. Obstructing offside player. Now, something I have noticed here is try scoring. They've never said that a dummy half can't score. So I assume, I'm going to assume in this era of touch football, I could score a try as the dummy half. And I'm also going to assume that the same time that they stopped allowing dummy halves to score was the exact same time they got rid of the marker. Because otherwise it would have been too easy for dummy halves to just pick up the ball and dive at the line. Scissors movement. These are just, these were in the 7th edition. They had photos of them as well, the scissors and stuff like that, just talking about different types of obstructions, what is, what isn't. Duties of referee and touch judges. There we go, touch judges. In all matches, a referee and 2 touch judges, if available, shall be appointed by the appropriate body. So obviously you didn't have to have touch judges. There would have been sometimes not enough. The referee shall enforce the rules of the game and shall impose penalties for any deliberate breaches. Yeah, that's same. He shall record the tries. That's more of a social thing. Oh, no, the referees do that at rep now. Sometimes they have a scorer, but they do that. They're not the sole timekeeper, like it says, except when the duty's been delegated. Very rarely have I seen the referee in charge of keeping time, probably because there's multiple games going at once and they want to make sure that every game's starting and finishing at the same time. The referee does have the power to stop the game. That's still the same. Consult with touch judges. That's just other referees now. Permission to enter the playing area. Yep. Dismissed player. Can take no further part in the match. That's fine. That's all the same. Referee has control of players. When to blow the whistle. This is just general information for our match officials when they're reading this. Whistle blown accidentally. Now, without reading it, these days they would come back for the previous play the ball. Play must cease even when the whistle is blown accidentally, in which case play is restarted by the play the ball by the team last in possession. Okay, that's the same as what it is now. This is a good one. If the referee judges on a matter of fact, he shall not subsequently alter that judgment. That's been changed in touch. That's still a rule in rugby league, but in touch football, you can even award a try. As far as I know, you can award a try in touch football and then receive knowledge after the fact and then cancel that try. I've seen it before. If I'm wrong, show me that in writing. But yes, in touch football, they're very open to correcting your decision after a mistake, which I'm okay with that, as long as it doesn't take 5 minutes to do. Indicating touch. Oh, that's touch. That's the touch line. Officials inquiry notes. If a referee can't continue, they get a replacement. That's obvious. Yeah, these are just referees' duties here. All right, some more glossaries. So this is signals. Again, this is not so much rules. This is just information for being a referee. Career Management Incorporated. It looks like another sponsor. And that is the end of the rule book. So it looks like dummy half can score a try. But yeah, that was that's interesting. I skimmed this. I had a little look before making this video, but I didn't look at it too much because I didn't want to just skip over what I thought was not important. But yeah, the Australian Touch Football Association playing rules. First generation or first edition. Like I said, link in the description for some archival stuff from Queensland touch football, mainly Brisbane, from 1968 onwards. There's basic rules there, only probably 10 rules listed. But yeah, this is the official rulebook in 1980. So we've had 45 years of TFA or TFA equivalent. So in 2030, we'll mark the 50th anniversary of the rules that we know today. But if you've lasted this long, thank you very much for watching. Become a subscriber, become a member. If you become a member, you can just tell me ideas and I'll do it because being a member really helps the channel. I know that if you're a member, you're a massive touch head like myself. So I'm keen to get as much content out there as I can. But until then, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next video.